Cody Hofhine joins me here today. You can learn what he is up to by heading over to Joe Homebuyer Franchising.com. If you stay mid episode, he even has something free for you that we're going to you will want to take advantage of. So stay to that. But if you don't know Cody, I'd say you're living under a rock when it comes to wholesaling. So Wholesaling Inc, Joe Homebuyer Franchising.com. You have a new podcast you're going to launch, Cody Hofhine Show, that you're going to be talking about leadership, mindset, and a few other things. Sometimes, Cody, I just don't know how you find the time to get all of this done.
Well, my friend, first and foremost, it's an honor to be here. But when it comes to time, I surround myself with great people. We all know what it's like to have a team. Sometimes it can be easy, sometimes it can be hard. I've gone through both. The hard was because it was directly tied to my lack of being a great leader. And so I simply was attracting the wrong talent. And so everyone talks about this A player stuff. And they're like, hey, you need A players. 100% agree with you. But when I was a C leader, I couldn't attract and I couldn't hire A talent. A talent's looking for A leaders. And so as I worked on myself and became an A leader, magically I started attracting the right talent. I started doing that. So I love the question that you asked. I think very few people in the real estate space, I think they do make more money than an average 9 to 5. I think that is something that a lot of people can do. It does take work. I don't want to make it sound like the easy game, but they can make more money than a 9 to 5. But very few people get time back, Jack. That's the one thing I think when we get into real estate, we're thinking we want to make more money and we want time freedom. Very few find time freedom. So long story to get back to that answer is I've been working on myself to attract better talent. So I do have time for these things. That's what's made the difference between working 80 hours a week to still now just maintaining that 30 to 40 hours a week, because you're able to leverage and build a team that will build a business.
You know, one of the things that you just brought up is that we hear, and I almost think it's becoming a buzzword in our world, is this concept of financial freedom. But I don't actually think that people take a second to realize what we really mean by that. And I think most people, if pressed, would say that they want the freedom to use their time as they'd like. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And that's why I say very few find the time. I think most people, when they get into real estate, they actually lose time. And I've seen that time and time again. I coach high level entrepreneurs that are in this space, people that are doing now on track to do 12 million. I have people that are in there doing 3 to now going up to 5 million. People that I've been coaching. And the biggest thing is you'll talk to them and there's this balance. And when I say balance, I'm not talking equal time in every areas, but there's this inequality of at least a balance. There's not a balanced life. And they're spending from 9 in the morning till 9 p.m. So yes, they're making a lot more money, but they're now losing time with their family. At least a 9 to 5, you can end at 5 o'clock and go home. Entrepreneurship, if you don't figure this out, most people lose time. They make more money, but they're losing time. Dan Martell has a fantastic book. It's called Buy Back Your Time. That's the philosophy that I've been running on for years. He just put it in a fantastic book. And that is, with every hire, what you're doing is you're buying back time so that you can either at first maybe just use that time to go do higher money revenue producing activities. Yes. But then there's a point where you're hiring out everything so that you're buying back time to now spend it however you want. I do think that. I see it all the time. And I think there's an answer to it if people are willing to go down the road. And most people have a hard time delegating, but that's just kind of a red flag saying it's because you don't have the leadership skills to delegate. But as you learn those leadership skills, you gain clarity and confidence in raising a team to go build your business.
So I promise everybody we're going to get to the wholesaling piece of this here soon, but I got to take advantage of a couple things. You know, we also say that we talk about leveraging all the time in real estate investing, but I don't think it occurs to most people that we can leverage other things, including other people's time. And leveraging other people's time, I think, are the two biggest keys to scaling any kind of business.
It is. It is. And if you look at it, collaborators are winning at the highest level. So even if it's something that you don't need to hire internally, but that you're collaborating with people that are a good fit. Tony Robbins was just a solo show. It was him. He'd go on stage and teach at these events, and he did very, very well. Fast forward to today, Tony's a collaborator. He now has Dean Graziosi and all these other influencers from all the different business spaces up on his stage so that he doesn't have to be the Elvis all the time. he now has this business that whether he shows up or not, there's going to be a great show going on. Collaborators are winning. So yes, leveraging people is a must in today's age, because you really, mutual people that we probably know together is John Maxwell. One of the things he says, don't show me your dreams, show me your teams, because with the right team, you can accomplish any dream. Like, to me, I'm like, that makes sense, because you can't do this alone. It's hard.
Right. So, Cody, and this is going to come off a little weird, but every time I see you, whether it's here or in your channel, you're always smiling. You always have such a positive attitude. Does that come naturally, or is that something that you have to just kind of part of your mindset routine? There's something that you kind of work on.
That's a great question. It is natural. It's very, very natural to me. I'm always a high energy guy. I've always been a guy that's lighthearted, someone that's always trying to smile or make people laugh. That's always been my character, who I am. I do believe everything is teachable and learnable. People might just have to work harder at those things, because there's definitely skill sets that are not natural to me. I'm naturally a visionary. My brain will go to work when someone says something, my brain will go to work and come up with the ideas around it, the big ideas. But when it comes to the integration of it, and also like orchestrating and making sure that all happens, and the finite, the granular ideas, like, this is where I'm not that great. And so, yes, I'm glad that you pointed out one of probably my only success story to Cody Hofhine. Cody Hofhine smiles all the time. I don't think people need to learn their weaknesses. And I think that was an old tradition when we grew up, like make your weaknesses your strengths. Me, I'm like, nope, hire out your weaknesses and stay in your lane with your strengths and watch what happens. I'm more that way.
You just brought up something else too. When it comes to entrepreneurship, I think a lot of us have that shiny object syndrome. Is it your team that keeps you focused in your lane, or have you kind of learned to set some things aside so that, you know, what we focus on grows?
That's a great question. For those that are solopreneurs, but they have a business, meaning maybe not solopreneur, individual owner, yeah, you're going to need a CEO or a COO that challenges you. On Joe Homebuyer specifically, I build that with a business partner. Now, my business partner happens to be my complete opposite. So where I'm the visionary, he's the integrator. He can see all those things. Me as a visionary, one of my roles, responsibility is every single week, spend time during the week and come to this meeting that we have together with 10 big ideas, so that we can just start to see, how do we 10X, right? How do we 10X Joe Homebuyer? How do we grow this? That's on me to start thinking of the ideas and how to do that. Mark is there to now like pull some of these out of the clouds and say, okay, this one, whenever Mark says, hey, let's put this on the shelf for a little bit, what he really means is we'll probably never see this one ever again. But then he'll grab some of these ideas and like, oh my gosh, fantastic idea. And I know how we can put this into play. And yes, this is going to catapult revenue. So there is that yin to the yang. If you don't have the business partner that's your opposite, because I've been in partnerships where we're both visionaries and it just doesn't work. It's hard, because you'll both have different ideas, conflicting paths on how to get there. And there's really no integration in place. So I'm really big on making sure it's just like my marriage. Me and my wife, we're opposites. It's the same thing with a partnership. It really is a second marriage. And you got to look at it that way. You can't be the two of the same people, because you need to be divided and conquered when it comes to partnership, or have a COO that has that skill set that's opposite of a visionary.
Let's dive into the Joe Homebuyer franchise,
Okay.
because this is actually particularly interesting to me, Cody, because when I was looking for some initial coaching when I come to my real estate investing, I kept looking for somebody that would help with implementation. And actually, I was moving from a cubicle job. I was actively looking for somebody to tell me what I needed to do every single day. I
Yeah.
just needed the job description, if you will.
Yeah.
What could somebody expect in joining your franchise opportunity with your team?
Yeah, that's a great question. It kind of goes back to Wholesaling Inc. What we were built for at Wholesaling Inc. is to help people get their first deal. That was the biggest part of when people are coming to us, they're a beginner, they've never done a deal, and they're buying Wholesaling Inc.'s program, our program at that time, so they can learn the path. What's the blueprint to get you quick as possible to your first deal? What Wholesaling Inc. wasn't really built for is taking someone that's now done a few deals and actually help them grow a business. And so you started seeing people that, like, yes, they were making more money, they were losing time. And so they almost lost, there's a burnout. Burnout's when passion disconnects from purpose. So when they start to lose that, it has nothing to do with how many hours you're working as much as that can drive it toward like, I'm just not passionate about this. So we've had people that have won and they're like, I just don't like real estate. And they go back to their other job. Great. But then you have people that just burn out because they're like, I'm doing deals, but I'm losing time. So where Wholesaling Inc. was for the beginner, we don't teach beginners that don't come to us and they've never done a deal. Wholesaling Inc. is still out there. We sold that in 2020 to Brent Daniels. Phenomenal replacement for me and Tom. In fact, does a better job than me and Tom. He's phenomenal. So that coach, Brent Daniels, for an example, could teach you how to do consistent deals over and over again. Once you've done about like 6 figures, whether it's assignments, fix and flips, that's when Joe Homebuyer says, okay, let's throw some gasoline on this and let's show you how to turn this into a real business that serves you versus you always serving it. Let's put the right people in place, the processes in place, the systems in place that turn this into a real business so that they're getting over that 7-figure mark. That's where we come into play, Joe Homebuyer.
Okay. That's really interesting. And I think there is a huge gap in the marketplace for that type of thing. It's just like systems, operations, getting people consistent with their business because let's face it, especially that first deal, most people are likely still treating this as a side hustle or a part-time gig at best, not treating it as an actual business.
Part-time energy gives you part-time results.
So, well, let's dive into some wholesaling strategies and tactics because, people are always looking for that type of guidance. If somebody was getting into wholesaling for the first time, where are they going to start?
Man, and things have changed a little bit. I wouldn't say drastically, but things have changed since I got into the deal. I got into the business in 2015. So back then, really it was, and I would still say today this is the case. You really need to map out. Let's break down what just wholesaling is. Essentially, guys, each and every market has these distressed properties that have not been taken care of for a long time. Perfect example. Couple weeks ago, we had a family where mom passed away years ago. Dad finally passed away. They inherited dad's home. Dad's home hadn't been touched in like 45 years. It's the original carpet. It had a dog in it that was doing its business inside the house, not outside of the house. Cabinets need to be updated. Like to really sell it in a retail market and get a retail price, we're talking 30, 40, let's call it 40, $50,000 in repairs to make it like retail ready to compete with all these other homes in the market. So we are really good at wholesalers, so they can get to know what a wholesaling is. It's really getting good at locating these distressed properties or people that may have a distressed situation. Maybe someone needs to move. They got a new job, relocation from Utah, and they're moving to Arizona, and they need to sell in 7 days. Well, realtors really can't help at that point. It's going to take more than a 7-day process to close a deal. Where an investor like myself, we can go locate this property. So wholesaling is locating these properties, meeting with them. And what we do is we're able to negotiate because of the condition of the home. We're not paying top dollar, but we're able to solve their real-time problems. What is it that they need? Some, they need to close in 7 days. Others, they need to be able to close, have money, and still live in the home for the next 30 days. It's all over the place what their desires are, what they need. But at the end of the day, because we're able to solve real-time problems, it allows us to put this home under contract at a discount. Let's call it 60 cents on the dollar. So if a home is worth, let's say 50 cents on the dollar, easier math. Let's say the home, when it's fixed up, is worth 200,000. We're putting this home under contract at 100,000. A wholesaler or wholesaling is just simply then marketing that contract to, let's say, Jack, you love fix and flip. I come to you, Jack, and I say, hey, I've got this contract that allows you to go close on this home at 123 Main Street. And I'm going to sell you this contract for $110,000. It takes X amount to fix it up, and I'm going to make some money here. You go to closing with $110,000. The title company cuts a check to the seller that I put under contract at $100,000, cuts them a check for $100,000. And then title company cuts me a check for $10,000. And then you now going to go fix and flip the home. I'm going to go find my next deal to go bring back to you a fix and flipper. So that's probably the easiest way of breaking down wholesaling. We're just the deal finders. We're the ones that are out there finding the deals, putting homes under contract at a discount, and then lining it up with a fix and flipper or an investor that wants it to keep it for a rental and then making some money doing so.
Well, we're going to jump into like, how do we find these motivated sellers? But before we do, I want to remind everybody, JoeHomebuyerFranchising.com. But I'm going to point you to, this is your opportunity to take advantage of what Cody's offering by heading over to the joetracker.com/mastermind. Cody, could you fill them in on what they could expect if they head over there for that?
Yeah, Joe Tracker, what this is me and Mark, my business partner for Joe Homebuyer, we really want to dial in what people always say, the key performance indicators, the KPIs. We hear that word all the time. What we did is we dialed in and we found out what are the key vitals. If you go and you break your arm, you go to a hospital, they're not just going to go treat you for your broken arm. They're going to weigh you. They're going to look at your height. They're going to take your blood pressure. They're going to maybe even take your blood. Like, they're going to do all these things so they can understand all of the vitals, even though your broken arm is clear to them that they got to go fix the arm. They also want to know, how is Cody in general doing? That is our KPIs, our vitals. So if I'm on an island and my butler comes up, I don't have a butler, by the way. A butler comes up with this tray with white gloves and says, Mr. Hofhine, here is the health of your company. What do I want to see? I want to see these 5 things. I want to see the amount of leads coming into my business. I want to see of those leads. So even if someone calls me and tells me, pound sand, take me off your list, that's still a lead. How many of those leads are turning into opportunities? Meaning someone that's potentially I could purchase their home at a discount or put it under contract at a discount. How many turn to appointments? And then from appointments, how many turn into contracts? And from those contracts, how many of them close? Because every now and again, there may be a title issue. There may be things where you have to cancel the contract. But those are the 5 metrics. When you know these things, in 30 seconds, I can look at anyone. If they show me their LOAC, in 30 seconds, I can tell you where the problem is in their business so they can map out a little goal for the next 90 days on what they should focus on so we can turn their business around so they can go win at a higher level. So joetracker.com/mastermind, they will get a copy of our proprietary, no one has this. This is our acronym. This is our stuff. This will allow you to start tracking your leads, your opportunities, your appointments, your contracts and closes. And there should be a healthy ratio in between each one of those metrics. So between your leads and opportunities, your opportunities and appointments, your appointments and contracts, your contracts and closes. And there's a key that will lead and guide you. And then we have videos accompanying so you can show you how to do this.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So what I'm saying there is this allows you, if you do track these things, you will be able to make great decisions for your business. Most people guess on where problems are and they now create a solution to something that's not even the right solution. This gets you dialed in on knowing where your problems are. And then now having data drive what you should be fixing in your business so you can grow it.
Yeah, and I can't emphasize this enough regarding, like, this is one of those key things that once you start to establish KPIs, we're treating this as a business instead of a hobby or what have you. Take advantage of what Cody's offering there. If you found some value in what we're talking about so far, this show only grows if you share it with one of your investor friends. So please consider doing that. And if you're watching us on YouTube, feed that algorithm. It really likes those likes and subscribes. So Cody, people are going to ask, like, how do I find these distressed homeowners? Because it's almost like a mindset shift. When you get that first deal, when you start to talk to people, and it's common for me, I still buy houses in my market at 50 cents on the dollar. It almost seems like that's my math. I have to get it for half of what the ARV is for. It's kind of like unbelievable to a lot of people that I'm acquiring properties at that level. Like, where do we find these properties?
Yeah. Let's say someone's at the beginning stages. They're like, I don't even know if I believe you guys. So what's the lowest cost to get into this game to even see if these guys are actually saying something that makes sense and is actually real? I would say if you're tight on your budget or tight on your mindset to know if this will work, I would tell you just drive around. Drive around all of the crummy neighborhoods. Instead of taking the freeway to go to the grocery store, take the back roads. Go through neighborhoods and start recognizing that these ones actually do exist. So there's eyesores in every neighborhood that you go down and like, you're like, oh, this is a decent neighborhood. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this one hasn't mowed its lawn and it looks like a year. All I can see is the grass is moving because it's 2 feet tall and there's a dog inside there running around, but I can't see the dog. That's a sign of a distressed property. There could be boarded up windows. There could be roof shingles that are missing. It could be, we've seen garage doors where they're hanging sideways or they're broken, weeds grown in the concrete all over in the driveway. There's so many signs of a distressed property. When you do that, take the address and then go to any kind of skip tracing service and simply call the homeowner and see if they would be open up to selling their home. And that's when the big conversations happen. Now, does this happen that every distressed property you find is going to be a deal? Oh, it's a numbers game. When you find these, you got to find enough of them so that you're just having consistent, constant conversations. And as you do so, yeah, you're going to come across someone that says, hey, yeah, I would be entertaining to sell this home. And you go out there and have the appointment. That's
Well,
just
I'm
one
sure
easy way, Jack. There's plenty of places where you can just buy the list. There's so many providers out there that just provide these lists of foreclosures, bankruptcies that suggest that there's either a distressed situation or a distressed property. And you can either direct mail them or you can skip trace that list and call them, however you want to do that.
Well, people always ask me, what do I say? I get them on the phone. What do I say?
Yeah, at the beginning stages, I would say don't worry about being polished. I think that's going to stop you from just taking imperfect action. But what I've also seen in my whole entire life, and it's been a phrase and a saying that I've said my whole life, is take massive imperfect action. Because the person taking massive imperfect action is way further ahead than the person sitting at home building a perfect plan, taking no action at all. You got to be the one that just takes action. When I got into this, sales is less about strategy, it's less about negotiation, and it's more about heartfelt connection. That's just the honest truth. I just genuinely love to serve people and help people. And so I didn't know it perfectly. I didn't have perfect things to say. When people said it's going through probate, I scratched my head and I'm like, what the freak is probate? I'm like, I don't even know what that is. It's okay. You don't need to be perfect to get a home under contract. You just need to connect, be there, be someone that they can love, like, and trust, and you'll get these contracts, you'll get these deals. So yes, you do need to understand the home. You need to understand at what price point you need to get it under contract for. And there's ways to do that. TheJoeWay.com is another one that if they wanted to learn our 5 steps of negotiation, they could learn it there. And it kind of just breaks it down with our videos on how to get into appointment and what you should sound like and what you should be saying.
Yeah, it's one of these things, Cody. This was a while ago, but my partner and I did take some of your courses. This is like many, many years ago, but we still use some of what we learned back then to this day. I still set the stage, do everything that Tom taught us in some of those videos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then obviously there's just been ways that you can enhance it that turns it into a real business. But at the beginning stages, I just want people to go out there and take imperfect action. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to sound dumb. It's okay. Like we all did. And it's the person that's willing to go make the mistakes the fastest that wins in this game. Just go out there and know that you're going to make mistakes. It's okay. There's no such thing as a perfect plan, but you'll either win or you'll learn. You'll never lose. You're just going to learn. You're just going to say, oh, next time I'm going to say this better. Oh, this works. So I'm going to make sure I continue to say that in my next appointment. And just little by little, you get better and better. And at the end of the day, that's how you start building this business.
So for those people that have done the necessary amount of reps and they surprise themselves and they actually get somebody who wants to sell their property, what should they do next? Like they got to have some paperwork or documents ready for
Yeah.
signature.
And I think it's so simple to just say, hey, call a title company, or if you're in a closing attorney state, call an attorney and just say, hey, what's the paperwork I need to do? You can use even the standard REPC, which is the real estate purchase contract, the same ones that the real estate agents use in each one of your markets. Now, the biggest thing is just making sure when you do talk to an attorney, or when you do talk to a title company, or when you do use a real estate purchase agreement, then it's just making sure that it is assignable. That's the key thing. It's just making sure that you have an agreement that should you not want to buy this, I can assign it to Jack to go close in my behalf. That's the biggest thing you need to make sure you have. But again, don't overcomplicate it. There's so many free ways to do that. And it's just saying, hey, I need someone that I can use after this. Are you an investor friendly closing attorney? Are you an investor friendly title company? Awesome. Do you have an agreement I can use that I can put this home under contract with that's assignable? Yep, here's one. Perfect. Thank you.
Like, I read this was a long time ago, but I think it was called the Aladdin effect or Aladdin factor or something. Simply simply asking for help, asking for something is one of the biggest door openers you'll get. Like, and it goes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, leveraging other people's time and expertise. Most people, especially title companies and businesses, if it's going to facilitate a sale, they are happy to provide you the necessary information, documents, and resources.
Very, very true and very important. Quit reinventing the wheel. I think we're so bought into the old terminology of R&D, which was research and development. The new school R&D is rip off and duplicate. Like at the end of the day, someone's already done it. Grab it and keep going.
What are some of the things we should be aware of, like pitfalls, misconceptions around wholesaling?
Yeah, I think some of the pitfalls is although we're talking and we're pretty energetic about the topic that it can work because it's worked for us. It's exciting stuff to share with people. It is going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. Anything that can pay you more than a current 9 to 5, also expect that it's going to be more challenging. It's going to come with its hiccups, trials, and challenges. But the biggest, I think, where I learned from Wholesaling Inc., we coached over 3,500 students nationwide. Here's what I learned is most people, their mindset when they fail, most people will come back and say, it's just not meant for me. Maybe I'm not meant to be an investor. Maybe God doesn't want this for me. And I hear all different forms of this. And then I ask them, is that true? And some people are like, it's true. And I'm like, is it 100% true? And I just don't believe in that. I don't believe that I'm not meant to do this. All it is their current mindset around business, their current mindset around the struggles they're having is telling them a truth that's not a truth. My mindset is, heck yeah, I can do this. Heck yeah, I can be in this. And when I do that and I believe it, I know challenges are coming. But guess what? When I look back, this is when I get 20/20 vision. I realize I had to go through that struggle. I had to go through that trial. I had to go through that challenge because each time I did, Cody Hofhine became a better individual. I believe each and every day, my goal is to become more like God. I'm supposed to become better each and every day. And it's through trials and challenges that I'm able to do that. That's when it gets stagnant and most people will plateau. I don't want it to be easy. My life commitment is I'm always going to be pushing a rock up the hill because it's that rock up the hill that makes me better. It's not when I push it down the other side. I don't have to do anything. So I'm making sure that I'm always staying uncomfortable because success is on the other side of comfort. Growth is on the other side of comfort. Cody 10.0 is on the other side of comfort. And so I welcome it. And that's where most people will be like, this is too much for me. Okay, if that's the case, then what can you do to then study mindset and change your belief system? Because once you change that belief system, this becomes more possible.
There seems to be something like a shift in the market, if you will, regarding we're seeing more and more states kind of restrict this whole concept of wholesaling. Are you seeing any kind of trends or anything that we should be aware of, like regarding this business venture?
Yeah, and it cut off for just a second, but you said there seems to be a shift. Was there something specific that you said when it cut out?
Well, what I had mentioned was that we're seeing some states restrict the wholesaling concept in various ways. And
Yeah.
it seems to, depending on the wind blowing, those restrictions vary from state to state. But have you seen any trends or anything we should be aware of before jumping in?
Yeah, I think for those getting into it, they won't know the difference. For those that's been in the game long enough, they're actually excited. I think this is going to be get rid of the bad apples situation. I do think there's been plenty that have tarnished the name of wholesaling, that have tarnished the name of real estate investing. And for that matter, regulation should come out. I don't blame states when they bring out regulation because the beauty behind, or I should say, they have to, because there was bad business happening. So they have to do it. I actually commend that they're doing something about it. The beauty, because I've been in this since 2015, is this is going to weed out the bad apples. This is going to be those that are in it for the right purpose, those that are in it to really change people's lives. This is a great day. Every time they bring in regulation, it doesn't worry me, it doesn't scare me. It makes me excited because all it does is get out the people that shouldn't be in the game in the first place. So it's opening it back up to almost the feelings of the early days when I was into this. Now, I don't believe in competition, but at the end of the day, when you can get rid of the bad apples, it starts to work out. Now, changes that you'll see some states, they're starting to go to the trend that you need to be a licensed real estate agent to do that. And if that's the case, awesome. Guess what? That also is one more thing that you've got to do that your competition may not be willing to do. So some of this regulation naturally weeds out people that are kind of like, hey, I want to do this on the side. Oh, wait, it costs $2,000 to get registered as an agent. Maybe I don't want to do this on the side. And you're like, I'm in this for the long haul. If your state requires it, go get it. Don't look at that as a downside. Look at it as a weed out device to get your competition to be like, are you in or are you out? And most people that are competition, they're doing this on the side, they're out, they're gone. So it just makes it that much richer and that much better for you. So yes, there's things that are changing, but look at it all in all, it's a great thing.
Well, before we jump into the rapid fire and start closing out this episode, I was hoping you could share a couple of your stories regarding some companies you're working with now with Joe Homebuyer and increasing their business and elevating their practices.
Yeah, so we have about 100 franchise territories now nationwide. What we found out over time, very few people, because of what we also talked about here, because of their mindset, money didn't change it. Like they had this blueprint in their mind of this money blueprint that didn't align with real estate. So money couldn't fix that problem. They needed to fix their mindset so money could go in their behalf and help them win in a business. So because of that, we shifted our avatar. So these individuals that we work with now come to us where they're at a six-figure mark in their business, and that's revenue. That's not net that they're taking home, but that they've done 6 figures worth of deals. Now we're really looking at them because that's where Joe Homebuyer is primed to help them the most. That when they now put in what I hate the term, so I don't want to. People always say like business in a box. It's so much more than that. Business in a box sounds like, oh, you just turn it on, it's going to work. No business works like that. But now we have systems. We definitely have the softwares. We definitely have the SOPs or the processes. We definitely know the roles, responsibilities, and what team members need to be on your team and in what order, because that's going to be a different order for everyone. Some might love sales, some might hate sales. So the hiring process is going to be different as we work with these individuals. Their blueprint's going to be different for the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. But we're able to really hone in and help this individual, no matter where they're at in their 6 figures. And ultimately, their goal is we want to be a 7-figure business, something that has a team in place, something that can go to 7 plus. And that's where we come in. So we've been working with, example, this year, our focus is how do we get over 16 so far of them being $1 million producers? And we're well on our pace to do that. Over the next 3 years, we want to have $50 million producers. And we're well on our way to doing that. And it's because we have the right people coming in as well. Joe Homebuyer is not for everyone, but for those like our core values, humble, heart for others, honest, and hunger. These 4 core values, this is how we're able to determine, but we really are very culture driven. That's 60% of the application. Skill sets, we can train skills all day long, but what we can't really train is that core value. So we got to make sure they fit culturally. And when we do, we're able to really launch their business and grow their business at a faster pace than they could on their own.
Well, did you have an example? Like it sounds like you mentioned getting into 7 figures. Do you have an example of you could
Yeah.
share with somebody?
He's even a franchise owner of ours. He was below $1 million. He's a phenomenal coach. And what's hard is being a coach and a wholesaler at the same time. So he converted his operation into a Joe Homebuyer. He was doing below $1 million during the time. This year, he's almost at 3 million, on pace to do 3 million this year for being a franchise owner. So we're able to map out those things and get them there. Another one is a gentleman out of Louisville, Kentucky. He had done a handful of deals. And this year, being with us now, this is going to be their second operating year with us. They're on their way to $2 million in revenue. And so these are examples where we're working with people all the time. The interesting thing is Brent's operation and this operation in Louisville, Kentucky, completely 2 different roadmaps, 2 different blueprints. So it really is customized, and it has to be customized because what they bring to the table is very much different. We're really able to read and drop into the business and really see how do we do what are some of the bottlenecks and how do we fix that? And then how do we map it out where they're working on these things 30, 60, 90 days out. So they're just growing their business one key thing at a time. And as these things unlock, 7 figures is the destination.
Well, Cody, it's always such a pleasure to talk to you. Again, I'm going to direct everybody to joehomebuyerfranchising.com. That's going to be a clickable link is in the show notes, as well as the joetracker.com/mastermind to establish your KPIs there. Before we jump into the rapid fire and close out this episode, is there anything we should have tried to hit on?
Other than you guys, for those listening, I want everyone to know they can do it. Yes, it's going to take hunger. Yes, it's going to take being humble, maintaining a white belt mentality and learning every single day, committing to something that's tough to challenging. But if you're willing to do those things, real estate can be a phenomenal career path for you. And it's been nothing but blessings. Granted, I noticed there's challenges and trials, but I still will say those have been blessings in my life. And so it's been a blessed journey ever since I've been in real estate.
Well, if you're ready, Cody, we'll jump into the rapid fire and close out this episode.
Let's do it.
What lie do real estate investors often tell themselves?
That I can do everything, right? Most investors say, I can do it all. And I looked through these questions before we got on here, but that's the big one is, I don't need that. I can do that. And the problem is that's why they're losing time. They don't know how to delegate. They don't trust. They have trust issues on giving it to someone else because no one can do it as good as Cody. I used to have a little bit of that mindset, like, oh man, we're bringing on people who are going to do it as well as I have. Truth is, guys, fast forward, they do it better than Cody Hofhine. And that's why the business wins.
I still struggle with the concept of seeing that as an investment instead of an expense.
Yeah, if you set it up right, it should always be an investment. You brought up a key point. It needs to be it's not a cost. So if it's a $40,000 salary, what is that? $3,300 a month? I think that's what it ends up being. Really, all I need to have is 10 grand in the bank, because if they're not profitable by 90 days, it's already, I'm moving on to the next person. And so I don't need $40,000 in the bank to hire someone. I need $10,000. And because of our SOPs and the way we do it, we can get people profitable. And if not, it really is a wrong fit. They shouldn't be on the team. By 3 months, they really should be already more profitable than the 10 grand you put out. That's another thing that Joe Homebuyer helps with, is making sure people are dialed in. We do all the training for people's teams. They fly out to Utah. We train them physically on their roles and responsibilities. When they fly back, boom, they're hitting the road.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
It would be directly tied to a quote from Jim Rohn. You're the average of the 5 closest individuals you spend the most time with. I would make sure I would protect who I want to become in life by making sure I'm surrounding myself with people that are in the destination that I want to be at. Because if you will do that, the likelihood of you becoming them will become a reality. I see in youth right now, and I see in the 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, they're still hanging out with the wrong crowd. They're still doing that. And they think, oh, this doesn't have any effect on me. And it does. It has an effect on you. If your friends like to go to the bar, you're going to go to the bar. If your friends like to smoke, you're going to smoke. But if your friends like to be millionaires, how cool would that be to be in that circle? The likelihood of you becoming a millionaire starts to go up in your behalf. If the people you hang out with are fit, chances are you're going to be fit because you're the average of the 5 closest individuals you spend most time with. Protect that circle.
Do you have a book recommendation?
Ooh, good question. I always read on a skill set that I lack. So right now I'm working on mine because I coach a lot of people that come to me that it's a different mindset than me. I have sympathy for you. I don't have the empathy because I've never gone through the process before. I've never had a struggling mindset. Mine's always been a positive mindset. And so in behalf of my students, I'm really trying to learn how the mind works right now. So I'm reading one called Don't Believe Everything You're Thinking by Joseph Wynn. And I have loved that book because it's helped me now understand putting myself in the shoes of my clients that I work with one-on-one so I can help them get through these things. So anything right now about the mind, I love. Good one to follow when you're listening to podcast is Joe Dispenza and Jim Quick. Those are 2 individuals that know the mind very, very well. So that's what I'm studying right now. But I would say definitely study the skill set that's holding you back to getting to the next level. Don't study mindset if mindset's not your problem. and really just look at, okay, I lack sales. Okay, well then go get like Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. That's a fantastic sales book. So that's how I recommend when people say, hey, what's a good book to read? I say, what do you need right now?
And then finally, what single process or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time-saving impact?
Oh, I would say the greatest time saving impact is everyone needs an executive assistant, one that manages all your email, one that manages your calendar, one that books all your flights, the one that does all of that for you. There's so much time we spend as entrepreneurs doing the $20 an hour stuff when we should be doing the $500 or the $1,000 or the $2,000 or the $5,000 an hour stuff. And it's these things that are holding us back from doing just more hours of $120 or $500 or $1,000, something that's more than the $20 an hour stuff. So I would say the system that works or the process that works, everyone needs an executive assistant. You will be much more profitable. You'll buy more time back for the cost that it cost you to get an executive assistant.
Well, Cody, this was fantastic as always. It is joehomebuyerfranchising.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes, but really appreciate your time and hope you'll consider coming back again sometime really soon.
Jack, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. Hope some value is here where someone's going to leave here a little bit more fired up, a little more inspired to go take some action.